guys, my name is Janaki, and here we have Madame Bathsheba, and together we are Catomancy Tarot. So today I wanted to hop on to do a couple of things. A couple weeks back, I saw Candy from Soul and Soil she's doing this series on like different parts of her collection, and one of the categories was her unused deck whys. So she talked about all of the unused decks in her collection and why she doesn't use them as much. And I thought I would do something similar. So I'm going to go through my unused decks, but I'm also going to cull some of them. And so this is actually going to be my first like big deck cull. I've given away a couple decks that I've had in the past, but I've never gone through and like systematically gotten rid of a bunch. And I'm feeling like it's the season. I've run out of space. I've had one shelf for all of my decks, which isn't enough space. So I'm hoping by like selling some of these decks, I can buy a proper shelf. So I'll have more room because I have a feeling that the collection is going to keep growing. It's gonna happen. So I also went through and I keep track of my decks on I have a list. I have a wish list, and then I have a list of decks acquired. So are you ready to hear the numbers? I think it's interesting. But so it looks like I currently have a total of 64 tarot decks and 18 oracle decks. So I have way more tarot than I do oracle. And then I have 8 decks that I'm calling sort of more library research decks that I don't use, and they're only for research. And they're most of the decks that I acquired while I was in India, or decks that are by it's sort of in that category of like more study tools for my research rather than things that I use. So I keep those a little bit separate, but still that's a total of 92 decks, which is a lot of decks. But yeah, so I'm wearing my best 90s look because I have some friends coming over in a little bit, and we're gonna do a Buffy the Vampire Slayer board game night. And I thought I would dress the part. So this is my best like Willow in the 90s look. All right, so I'll go ahead and flip this around and I'll go through, I've got about 6 different categories of unused decks, and as we go along we'll figure out which ones I don't need anymore. All right, here we go. All right, so my first category of decks I don't use are Doodle Decks. And so when I was first starting my collection, I thought that I might really dig them. So I've got a couple Doodle Decks here that I basically never use. So the first one is Spirit Speak. So I have a couple other of Mary Evans decks. I have the Apparition Tarot, and I have 2 of her Oracle decks, and I love her Oracle decks. But I ended up buying this one because it reminded me of my best friend in the whole world, and I ended up buying this deck for her as a gift. The art style is similar to kind of her sort of aesthetic, and then after I got this deck for her, I realized that I wanted a copy, and so I have this deck more as a way to kind of like feel connected to a friend than I do actually use this deck much. I used it a little bit when I first got it, but basically not since then. This is my favorite card in the deck. And it's cute. I never use it. If I reach for a doodle deck, I reach for the Apparition. But this one's not going anywhere, even though I never touch it. It's sentimental because of that connection, so this guy's staying. And then I have the small spells color edition by Rachel Howe. I reached out to her when I was in Los Angeles, and I was able to interview her the last time I was there for my project. So and she was very sweet and generous with her time, and I love all the kinds of things that she's doing. I love this death card. It's at the back of the box. But I basically never reach for this deck. I think this deck, you can tell it's like quite pippish. And I think this would be a good deck. It's kind of like a transition deck if I ever decided I wanted to read playing cards. I think this deck is like a transitional between like playing cards and tarot. But it's very cute. There's a couple, I love these two cards. Anything with nude in it, I'm here for. I love this Empress. But the rest, a lot of them I can kind of like, they don't do a lot for me, but there's a few cards I love, and I weirdly maybe this is just me, but I actually, I love this box. This is one of my favorite tuck boxes, and like I'm attached to this deck because of the box and because of the way it looks on my shelf. Is that weird? Is that kind of weird? I don't know. I don't care. I like it. I'm keeping it. So these guys are staying with me. But then there's Visions in the Liminal Space. And so a lot of you guys will be familiar with this one. I really got attached to the idea of owning the prequel to this deck, which was Postcards from the Liminal Space, but this is the second one. It's a similar illustration style. It's very sort of reminiscent of the Morgan's Tarot. But I like impulse bought this one because I couldn't afford how much the postcards deck was going for. It went out of print, and then you know how that goes. But it turns out as soon as I opened this one up, I didn't want to watch a walkthrough or anything, but it turns out that I like absolutely hate it. And I've held on to it just because I'm just bad at getting rid of things. I do like this one a lot. There's like one or two cards. I think ideally I would have this deck, Postcards, and Morgan's Tarot, and then pick my favorite from all three, which is too much to do. But yeah, so I think this one is. I don't know. It's like too. It's trying to be too. I do love a good ghost though. See, I like the ghosts, but I don't know. A lot of it is just like too. I don't know. It's trying to be too trendy. Yeah. So this guy is out. So I'll make a pile of all the guys who are leaving me. The next pile of decks I have, the category is like, they're still around because they're too pretty, but I don't use them. So my pretty decks that I don't use are the Intuitive Night Goddess, the Marigold, and then the Birdkin Messages Oracle. So I'll start over here with the Intuitive Night Goddess. So I found out about this and I hopped on it before it went mass market. So this is an indie edition, which means it's got gilding, which I can kind of take or leave. And you would think that this deck is like very much in my wheelhouse. The images are just very gorgeous. And every time I pick it up, it's like very alluring. But for whatever reason, anytime I try and read with it, I just get nothing. Like It is a like RWS clone, though a lot of the titles and the majors are changed and the courts are changed. But for some reason, I think it's just the sort of like these goddesses exist in this like phantasmagoric, decontextualized outer space world that I just can't get a foothold in. And like the guidebook is just like straight up RWS meanings. And so you don't get any kind of contextualization of what, like, who's the lady. And like I think some people like it for that reason, is it just has this like it's like this sort of multicultural goddess melange. But for me, because it kind of loses all kind of specificity, it makes it, I don't know, I can just never connect with it. Like this seems like clearly to be Lakshmi, but like we don't learn about anything in the book, and maybe it doesn't matter. And I think, I don't know, it's so pretty, but I'm not attached to the like indie version, and it's now mass market, so I think I might move this one on because I'm sure there's someone who wants the shiny version, and like I can always get this deck again. It's just not worth yeah, I would rather get like a cheaper indie version if I'm gonna have it and not use it than hold on to like a nicer copy, I guess. The next one that's just like very pretty, never use it, is the Marigold Tarot. And so this is, widely loved. The backs are gorgeous. It's a linen finish. I've got the just black version. It's the creator's name is Amrit Brar. And so it comes from this sort of like Punjabi Sikh culture. So there's a lot of like specificity to the sort of plants and flora and fauna and the skeletons. But I think the reason I never used this deck, one, it was given to me by an ex, so there's that. But then there's also something about decks that have just these like very strong borders. Sometimes it makes it difficult, even though they're beautiful, it feels it's like too much of its own thing, and I feel like it doesn't go well with anything. That's probably just like me. I know a lot of people like to use this deck with others, but like for me, it's another deck that I just like, when I lay out the images, I just like, they're beautiful, but I don't get anything. I don't get any like intuitive, it's just, yeah, it's not an intuitive deck for me. And it is a pip deck, and I read with other pip decks, so yeah, I don't know what's going on, but I'm keeping this one. This one stays, because I also collect decks by South Asian creators. So this is like, I'm happy to have this in my collection, and it's okay if I don't use this one. So this one stays. This one I'm on the fence about, and I'm continually on the fence about. This is the Birdkin Oracle, and it's I don't remember the names of the creators, but they're both from Denver, Colorado, and I'm from Denver, so I was like stoked to support, Denver creators, and they're all like feather photographs with names, and it's like beautifully done. Like the quality is great. I love all the components. But like this is another one where like the feathers on their own don't really do much for me. And so then you have to like really rely on the guidebook, and the guidebook will have a little pencil drawing of what the bird looks like, and then a keyword at the end. But for whatever reason, for me, it's the guidebook. I don't really connect with the messages in here, and I've tried, but it's another one where like I will never ever use it. but it's so pretty that I feel bad for getting rid of it. But I just, maybe it's okay for me to have something pretty that I never use. So this one I'm on the fence about. I don't know. We'll put that in a maybe pile, and then it'll sit in a maybe pile for another 2 or 3 years, and that's kind of how I roll. Okay. So the next category is it's a weird category. It's like decks that I don't use, but I'm sentimental about for like ancestral or like future, and I don't know. Okay, so the 2 decks are the Antiquarian Tarot. I've got the first edition, and then the Fantastic Menagerie Tarot. Both well loved, but I never use this one anymore. I used it a bunch when I first got it back in like 2019. I think I got it for my birthday in 2019. So this, I've got the edition with these backs. I've edged it, but I never seem to use them. But this is a deck that I had initially bought with the intention of using it for kind of like ancestral work. So I have that sort of, it's now kind of a sentimental object for that reason, but I never reach for it. And I think, yeah, some of the images are just like very humorous to me. Like, it's hard to take this gentleman seriously, even though he has, you know, a very, I think if he had a funny expression, it would, you know, but like, I don't know, it's funnier because he's so serious, right? I don't know. And there's a, you know, with any deck with like historical images like this, I get a little squeamish about like, what's the provenance of these images? And even though we're sort of repurposing them, like if there's images taken by people like Edward Curtis, like, I don't know. But, you know, I feel like everyone needs at least one deck in their collection that's like you could do a seance with. And so this is I'm keeping it because what if I need to do a seance, guys? Like, what if I need something for that vibe? So, yeah, that's that one. So I think this one stays. And then the Fantastic Menagerie Tarot, you all know Baba Studio decks are always just beautiful. This one's got the cold stamping, which you can kind of see a little bit in I don't have the best lighting situation today. I got a late start, so apologies if it's a little dark. But the reason I never use it, I was enchanted by these images. Look at those cats. Too cute! Why is one a cat and one a human, but they're both in human? Oh, I don't know. But I like this one. I like the idea of giving this deck to my grandchildren. Like the idea of holding on to this deck to give it to you know, younger humans who might find this like fabulous and fantastical, and because I think like even though it's like it's very nice, like I think this would be such a magical thing to have as a child. Now I have no prospects, current prospects of like you know, it doesn't seem like, you know, settling down and having the kiddos are in my immediate future anytime soon. Who knows what'll happen, but like I'm attached to this deck because of that idea of passing it down. So it's I'm gonna hold on to it until then. But I never use it. But it would be a fun one to have, like, story time. Let's draw some cards and make a story, kids. You know? So it's sticking around. The next pile I have are all vintage decks. But these are ones I never use. So we've got Tarot of the Witches, which is a classic one, the Aquarian Tarot. This is the New Age Tarot. And then this is like a weird French geomancy oracle by Grimond that was printed in 1988. So we'll start with this one. This one I found very affordably, I think on a Dutch website. And so it is a vintage deck. The cardboard box is failing us a little bit. But I was like enchanted by the color scheme of this deck. But I've never like taken the time to sit down and figure out how to use it. So there's, you have the geomantic figures, and then you have sort of an element and then a keyword. But one thing that's really annoying is each card, sorry, I was out of frame. Each card has like four of the same, or at least doubles of each card, which I'm not sure why. So there's really only like 20 different, I don't know, I'm making that number up. But there's really only a couple different variations, and then the rest of the deck is all repeats. And this is a deck that I've never taken the time to figure out how to use. I think there's at least 4 of each one. And it feels like, it's old and out of print, and so it's probably kind of valuable. So it's like it is an appealing idea to be able to like make some money, maybe trade it for another out of print deck that I would rather have. But this is one of the ones where I'm hesitant to pass it on, because like, what if one day I'm like super into geomancy and then I can never get my hands on it again, right? So I think this might stay just as a novelty for now, because I guess I want to be super sure. And it is like, the colors are very cool. Its use is like rather opaque to me. The next deck I have, I'm not going to open because it's never been opened. Like, the cards are still in their plastic, and I've never taken the plastic off. And I'm going to keep it that way because I think this one I am going to move on. This is by the artist Walter Wegmuller. I have his other deck, which is the Zigeuner Tarot. And I love that one, and I like the art. I much prefer the art style in that one than this one. You can see some of the art in this is a little bit more like very modern. It's a weird deck. It's got a really weird energy, and I just I'm curious about it, but I've looked at a lot of flip throughs, and like there's something about it that always seems a little off to me. And so I found this one very cheap somewhere, and I was like, oh, I should get it. And then I've been too afraid to open it. I don't know why, but I think this is one that I'm going to pass on. And that way someone else who actually wants it can have the pleasure of unwrapping it. Because, I don't know, I find that to be like super satisfying. So I think I'm going to let someone else do that. Then there's the Antiquarian Tarot. Everybody knows this guy. I've got I think this copy is at least from the 90s, because it doesn't have those white things on the back, which, thank goodness. But I adore this one, and I just never use it. I don't know why. Every time I open it up, it's just like, oh, it's sumptuous. I want someone to make a whole like textile collection just based on the patterns in this deck, because they're so beautiful. So this seems like an important piece of tarot history, even if I don't reach for it to read with. I'm happy to have it. So this guy will stay. And then Tarot of the Witches. This is another classic. And there's like 1 or 2 cards that I absolutely adore, and then the rest, like this Death card is great. There's the Lovers. I love this Lovers, and then the if we find perhaps we'll see the Devil. This is my favorite card in the deck. But the rest of the deck, the pips are just very pippish. So they don't give a lot of direction. But this is likewise, this wasn't a very, this is still readily available. And it's a little piece of tarot history. So this guy stays. Mostly because, like, I don't think it would be worth selling. It's like more effort to sell than it would be to actually, So there's that. My next pile are historical style decks. So we've got a Lenormand, we've got this guy, Mystery White Box. This is a reproduction of the Thompson Lang. This is a recent Marseille, and this is a historical Marseille. So we'll start there. So I saw this on Instagram about 1.5 years ago, and it had already gone out of print. This is the Lo Scarabeo Anima Antiqua series that they were doing. So this is their conver. And so I for a while I was really into historical Marseille decks, and I didn't have a conver in my collection, and I prefer decks, Marseille decks that are like reproduction, so they show all of the sort of like manual printing techniques, and they're riddled with errors and things like that. And I saw this, and the colors on I'm looking at through my camera right now, and it looks better on screen than it does in person, to me at least. There's a series of people who are missing eyes in this one, which does kind of bug me because I feel like the eyes are important. But yeah, I was really excited that I found a copy at retail price, even though it had gone out of print, and I just jumped on it. But there's something, the cardstock is, it's a little weird. It's fine, but it feels just a little, it's very, very smooth. And yeah, I never reach for it, and it's now out of print. So I think this is another one that I can let go of. I like how vivid the colors look on screen, but then whenever I get out, they just don't look as nice in person. So that is this guy. So we will say au revoir. This deck is, I think, the original Thompson Lang would have been from like the 1930s, and it was like a magazine. It was from like a women's magazine, and I bought the deck because of this card, because I feel like this is like one of the most metal Ten of Swords ever. And otherwise, it's a curiosity because the other, of the 4 suits, only the Wand suit turns out to be in this, like, the, like, Picardian pip style, and everybody else is just, like, Rider-Waite-Smith clones. But it's, like, all of the rods are, like, illustrated, Picardian style. Like, the only other decks in this style, I think, there's the El Gran Tarot Esoterico is the other big example of that. And you do get like some variation, so I thought it was really fun. I was excited to see that someone was doing a reprint, and I picked this one up. But it's like more of a sort of a historical curiosity than it is anything else. And the other thing is like, you can see in all of the swords cards, there's like water is a big part. So it seems like all of the swords and the cups, the elements are reversed. So the sword would be the suit of water. And then in all of the cups, you see either like a bird or a butterfly or something to kind of indicate that the cups are air. So that's a little bit funky. Like here you have a bird bath and you have that bird there. Yeah, so it is a little funky. I don't use it for reading much, but gosh, I do adore that the bat 10 of swords is very much a vibe. So this guy is staying. So I didn't include any of my newer decks that I hadn't gotten around to using yet because that didn't seem fair. But I will say I've had this, I think this was a Kickstarter. I think I got it maybe in April or May, but I haven't used it at all since then, and that's been a while. So I decided to include it on this list. I might, if I decide to get really into Marseille next year or something, I might use this deck more. But it's kind of very like gestural and abstract and pastel. I think they're using either oil or chalk pastels in this, and just kind of gouging away to produce these kind of very gestural images, which are quite beautiful and like easily recognizable if you know what you're looking at. But if you don't know what you're looking at, then it would be a little harder. One of the reasons I haven't really reached for it is I feel like there's a lot of extra white space. Like I wish, you know, it was cut just to this, to the actual artwork and then blown up a little bit instead of like having all of this, you know, it feels like a whole inch of the card is just like white space. And so that's, yeah, when they started sharing images of the artwork, that's when, you know, in Kickstarters, sometimes you love the art, but you don't really know yet how it's going to be formatted, and the formatting can make a huge difference. And so I think that was an issue for me with this deck here. But this is one that I would like to use more, but I just have to be in the right mood. And then the last one in this category is this little Lenormand here. This is a historical reproduction. So this is Vincent Reppo's Lenormand. And I got it mostly because I think the card backs are beautiful. I love those. And it comes with a couple extra gender cards, so you can swap them out. But I just loved I don't really know how to read Lenormand. I memorized the card meanings, but there's something about like the semantic order in which you're supposed to read Lenormand that is both like fascinating for me, but also like my brain can't quite wrap my head around it yet. And so I like having this kind of like historical replica, but I just, I'm not a Lenormand reader yet. But if I want to be a Lenormand reader, I've got a Lenormand. So that's this guy. Cute. So this is staying, but this is, yeah, historical deck that I just haven't learned the system for. All right. So moving on to the last category here. I know we're going through a lot of decks. This is the category, this is the biggest category, I guess, of, decks that something is off in the printing or production that makes me feel weird about using it. So we'll start off with Cards of Chaos. So this is one of Aya Rosen's deck. She's got 2 other tarot decks, I believe, and this is her only oracle. I got it from Game Crafters, but the version I got, you can tell the printing is just off center. So, you know, on all of them, it's just like a tiny bit lopsided, and like it's almost not noticeable, but it is very noticeable to me. And because all of the images are just slightly off kilter, I don't reach for it very often, even though I love her art style. I love how kind of wacky it is, but I never reach for it. And I know Game Crafter is usually like very good about customer service, but sometimes like I don't know, sometimes I have trouble with like executive functioning stuff. So like reaching out for this deck I got, I don't know, 3 years ago, and I, you know, have meant to reach out to them for this whole time about it, and just never have. Which tells you a lot about how I function in the world. But yeah, that's this one. It's staying because I like it, but also because like I cannot be bothered to like fix it. I've thought about trimming one side, making it slightly slimmer. I don't know. It's Cards of Chaos. This next one is indie deck, and this was my first ever Kickstarter purchase. It's called The Witch's Insurrection, a tarot deck by Kit Snicket. And this is a very DIY tarot deck. So this deck, warning, it has a lot of, it's all nudities, some like extremely explicit images. So heads up if that's not your thing. These are the backs. So this feels like a very, I got this deck I think in either 2018 or 2019, and this is a very, like, this was the energy of the era, the very like very Antifa kind of thing. This is also one of the decks that, so you have the Whore and the Mistress. So this, the artist also has, I think was a social worker, and a lot of the, I could be wrong, I'm remembering from a long time ago, but a lot of the images are of one dear friend that was close to them who was a sex worker. Here, I love this. So this is the head of a neo-Nazi, and if you look closely, those are like teeth in her vagina, which is like very metal for the Justice card. It's like very much a vibe. So there's a lot of kind of like BDSM stuff in here, a lot of and like I was very compelled by the art, but this is another case where like just the addition of this, you can tell it's like kind of pixelated in comparison to the rest of the artwork. It just like, this little thing right here ruins the whole deck for me. Like I can't get past that. It was just like, it didn't need that at all, and it's like pixelated, and it's just like, it, yeah, I can't handle it. I don't know. And then for the suits, all of the aces are black backdrop, and then it's the same sort of character throughout the deck. So it is beautifully done. It was like a very affordable deck. So if there's anyone out there who's interested in this deck, you know, who has a connection to sex work, or like all of this justice stuff, social justice stuff, let me know, and I would be happy to send this deck to you, because I feel like it needs a good home, and it's not, I don't think it's for me, but so I think this one is going to leave, even though it's my, like, a lot of people have like the Slutist Tarot and decks like that, so this is my version of that, but I just never reach for it. And I feel like it's a, you know, it deserves a good home. So that one is going to leave. The next one, this is a very popular one. This is Tarot of the Holy Spectrum. I think I have the first edition. And so I got this deck because I really like, it felt, there's a few images they shared on their Instagram that I absolutely loved. And I like the sort of comic book style. And when you lay out a bunch of cards from this deck in like a tableau, it looks like you could be like reading a comic book strip, which is like very cool. However, there's a lot, I didn't, you know, I know the whole idea of this deck is that like, there, like each suit is a different color and like it's a very strong color. And so but I don't like just this also, like these cards, I hate. I hate that it's like traffic light primary colors. Like if they were like different shades, I think I would be better with it. And yeah, I just, the monotone colors in this deck just don't work for me at all. And I know in the majors, each of the majors are black and white with like one little thing of color. I think the color of this deck, the coloration is just like a little over contrived. And if you had just like let it be, like my favorite cards in the whole deck are these guys, pretty much because of the way they're like blending these interesting colors. So like this feels like a completely different deck than like, you know, the ones that are just like all one color. So like I want more of this stuff. So I know he's done like a bunch of different editions. I haven't looked into it, but I keep this deck around because I like the idea of doing like comic strip readings. I think that's kind of fun. And because like these cards, I love these like so much, but I like hate this. I don't know. So there's that one. And then there's the last one I'm going to show you guys is the Oracle of the Radiant Sun. This was out of print for a while, and then it came back in print. I was stoked. This is a very popular Oracle deck. I love Carolyn Smith's artwork, but this is the only deck of hers I seem to have, and it seems like all of her decks are like kind of weird. This seems to be the most like... Whoops, sorry, turns out I ran out of memory, had to delete some stuff, and then remembered to empty my trash can. But anyways, as I was saying, this seems to be the most like accessible deck in that it makes the most like sense. I know her like Moon Oracle is also well loved, but it has like a bunch of Moon Mansion cards or like Lunar Mansions, which a lot of people don't, aren't super legible or like useful to folks. And then she has the Elemental Tarot, which I love the art for, but again, it's kind of a really weird tarot deck. And then lastly, the one I think I want the most is she's got the, there was that like, British, like, TV, oh, I forgot her name. You know, one of these like TV psychics who had a deck. But that deck is a pip deck, but I love the majors from it, so I don't know. But the reason I think I don't love this is like I was like really anticipating getting it, but then the cardstock is just so shiny. It just doesn't feel, it feels kind of, doesn't feel nice. It feels kind of cheap. And then I don't know, it's like very pastel. Some of them are quite interesting, but yeah, I don't know. I've just never, I like was really stoked to get it, finally got it, never touched it. You can tell it's still in order. And I've like picked out, yeah, it's one of the ones that like maybe I'll get to eventually. I think like the colors are also like very pastel. I'm more of a jewel tone kind of gal, if you can't tell. But yeah, but the thing about getting rid of this one is like it's so readily available. It seems hard. I don't know. Maybe I do want to use it. I'll never use it. See, I'm very indecisive. But those are all of my unused decks. I think I showed you about 20. And I only have, what, 60 something tarot decks total? So that's what I had for you today. So the guys that I'm thinking that I maybe will get rid of are these three. So I'm still on the fence about these three guys. This one I'm on the fence about because I'll never be able to find it again, and it's out of print. This one, it feels like more trouble to ship than it would be to like hold on to, which is kind of lame, but that's how I feel. And then I would feel bad about getting rid of this just because like I like supporting Denver artists. So those are the three I'm not sure about. But look, I've got, after all of that, I've only got 5 that I actually am sure about getting rid of. And those are these guys. So but we'll see how long it takes for me to actually like put these up anywhere. So feel free to like message me on Instagram if you want to get any of these, and I'll probably be posting these to like a Facebook group and then eBay. So that was my adventures in unused decks, and thank you for joining me in like baby's first deck call. So that was it. Thanks guys. Bye for now.